Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, another day. We got another deck to talk about. We're going to talk about Baja Blast, Bend to My Will this time around. How would I play the deck into the next set? Would I change anything? I'm not necessarily sold on it. I want to try out a few things, okay? So a few of the things I want to try out is putting the Diablo package back in. I want to see how that performs again. It kind of found its way out of the deck, but I don't know. I kind of feel like the deck could actually use it. Hitting that Clarabelle early while your opponent has a bunch of cards in hand is still incredibly strong. So that's an option that we're going to keep alive as well. But between the fact that we can get very high in ink very quickly in this deck, I'm pivoting away from as many one-drop Clarabelles and going for that Diablo on turn 1. So ideally it's like turn 1 Diablo, turn 2 Tipo, shift Diablo, turn 3 Baymax shift, and then seeing how far I'll go if you have the absolute dream hand. And you're going to be in a very, very strong position from that point moving forward. But let's go ahead and talk about the list overall and what about the new cards that we're playing. So it is high in the uninkable count. It's about 20 uninkable cards, which is usually higher than I want to be. The nature of the way the deck works, though, it works, and you being able to ink those uninkable cards with your Tipo helps a lot as well. And just having a low cost card like Diablo being uninkable means that you can usually get it out if you need to, especially one that's so high impact and gets you advantage back if it goes unanswered. So for that reason, I feel like the uninkable count seems almost a little bit skewed in this type of a deck. We're playing the 2 Clarabelles, who doubles up as your item removal, and obviously the 4 Diablos, which is the go-to on turn 1, who also gets you that hand knowledge of your opponent. We do have other 2-cost cards, however Tipo usually is going to be the one you go for. If you can hit Tipo on 2, get up to 3 ink on turn 3, shift your Baymax because universal shift is a thing now, you get a huge body on board, it quests for 2, and he's also a 6-cost character, meaning he can sing your higher cost songs and just completely take over and control the game for you. Obviously, we also talked about Diablo, so we're not going to dive into that too much more. Hitting your muses is another pivotal line. I felt like with Baymax and Diablo as well, that the deck isn't quite as muses or bust. This past set, it feels like it's muses or bust. If you don't hit muses, it doesn't feel like the deck's that threatening. Like, you have to play incredibly well to win those games. And having played against the deck a lot, if they don't hit muses, I don't really feel worried that I'm going to lose that game. So the deck kind of gets tunnel visioned and focused into that direction, similar to how like Green Steel Bucky was a few formats ago. And then we saw the absolute nerf go to Bucky, and yet Green Steel stuck around as one of the best decks of the format because it just opened up other playlines for the deck. And I think that's what we're going to see with this deck is you don't have to tunnel vision so hard into the muses anymore. And I think that's actually going to help open things up, and the deck's going to see more success moving forward. It was like a pretty solid rogue deck as of right now, but moving into next set, I could see it absolutely moving into a strong tier 2 finish spot. We're also, like I said, playing those 3 Baymaxes. That universal shift is such a neat interaction that we are just being introduced into the game. 2 Genies, just another removal option. It's evasive, quest for a few, so that's obviously going to be good. 4 Clarabelles, because just the advantage she can potentially get you is absolutely insane. Get to that Bend to My Will. And just 1 Peter Pan. So for those who don't know, he enters exerted, and while he's exerted, your opponent cannot gain lore unless one of their characters is challenged this turn. So you force your opponent into challenging so that they can quest or do any other lore gaining type effect. It kind of helps slow them down while making them play your game instead of being able to play their game. Bringing us into our action cards then, we have 12 actions. We're playing 4 Sail the Azurite Sea, which, like Tipo, you really want to hit one of these 2 cards and have that ramp on turn 2. And then also 4 Visions of the Future. Looking at 5 cards is always going to be such a good consistency boost. It's going to be such a strong power play, and most Sapphire decks are going to be playing it. So we're playing 4 Visions of the Future. 2 Ink Geyser, the new card. I don't know how sold I am on this card still, and it seems absolutely broken. And then people are like, well, wait a second. We've panicked over cards before that turned out to not be that good. And maybe it's another instance of that. I think this is better than a lot of those cases. However, it's if you can't get a good board state and be in control of the board, taking and equalizing the inkwell isn't going to do a whole lot if their board state is just better than yours, because it resets your ink as well. So if you're behind in the board and you can't control that, all of a sudden you reset the ink, you could just potentially fall behind. And I'm curious to see how this works out. I think 2 is a good number for the card. I don't think it's absolutely OP where you need to play 4 copies of it, but I think it's good enough to be played in there at a couple. And then the 2 bend to my wills. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get into our song countdown. We're playing 18 of them. Obviously, this pairing up with your muses very well. We do have another set 7 card here in the song section. We got 4 heffalumps and woozles, potential draw and slowing your opponent down from questing. 3 Mother Knows Best to be able to bounce and control their board state. You're welcome, shuffling a character, draw 2 cards. Your muses then bounces the card. And even if you shuffle their card, they draw 2 cards. Then you bend to my will and discard them all anyway. How far I'll go, like I said, if you hit the Dream Hand Baymax singing this on turn 3, just feels outright wrong. The amount of advantage and the power play that can potentially enable is just insane. 1, we don't talk about Bruno, and then 2 of the new song, All Is Found. When a character, 5 cost singing that yada yada yada. You put 2 cards from your discard into your inkwell face down and exerted. That's pretty awesome. A 5 cost song that you can just put 2 from your discard into your ink. It's giving you 2 free ink. You're not using your deck. You're not using your hand. You're using cards that otherwise you really don't have any way to repurpose them anyway. They're in your discard. They're gone. They're expired. So this allows you to be able to do that and still get a little extra use out of them. We got 2 items then. I really don't know if Sapphire Coil is going to stay in the deck, but we're trying it out for now. It's going to pair up with your muses really strong, being able to go after stronger characters, because if you can ink a card or a couple in a turn and get that minus strength to your opponent, then obviously your muses is going to be able to not challenge, but bounce the higher strength characters because you lower their strength with the Sapphire Coil first. Overall, like I said, I think this deck has a strong case to be into that mid tier 2 range. Do I think it's going to be tier 1? I really don't. I think Ink Geyser, like I said, is overhyped, but I still think it's an incredibly strong card. I think Baymax is incredibly good as well. Does this deck shift more into items? I don't think so. I was messing around with it, and at first I was adding some items in, and just as it went, as good as the new Tamatoa is, as good as the new Bell is, it's just, this isn't really an item-focused deck. Does Diablo stick around and make him into the final cut? Again, I don't know, but at least for the initial testing portion of the deck, I think Diablo might be the way to go into the new set. We'll see how it plays out and how it works, but thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming around. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff. Take care.